And back.
We are back, folks. It is the fun half, and we are opening up the phone lines. 646-257-3920. Let's get right into it here.
Hey, it's former Navy SEAL.
Jumping the gun.
Who? Former Navy SEAL? Who was
That's, of course, a Rumble ad.
Oh, okay.
Over on Rumble, Steven Crowder is very timidly beginning to criticize the Trump administration for this absolute boondoggle and F-up by all of these kind of overgrown frat boys that Trump has staffed the administration with. I'm, of course, referring to the fact that Hegseth and Waltz texted a bunch of bombing plans to bomb Yemen, which, by the way, under discussed here, but that included a civilian home, and they killed dozens of people in Yemen.
Flatten the building, yeah.
And I wish that would be a little bit more of the focus of the coverage, but the scandal is obviously at the forefront of everybody's minds. And back in the day, old school Republicans used to talk about national security. Not sure how secure it is to be texting war plans on a commercially available app, Signal, and also when you're using your presumably private personal phone number to do so. And that personal phone number is readily available on the internet, as was uncovered by that German paper that found Hegseth and Waltz's phone numbers just on the internet. Their Venmos were still open, that kind of thing. Signal is encrypted, but if they know your phone number, they can put malware, spyware on there, and then they can just, as Matt was saying earlier, transcribe the keystrokes and know what you're doing that way. And so it's just wildly, just completely incompetent. As they say, this is a merit-based administration now, which is why we hired the Fox Weekend host with the drinking problem. And it's the DEI that's causing all of our incompetence. Just so many insane layers to this. And even it seems like Steven Crowder can't deny it anymore.
We're coming in right after he did a Somebody's Getting Fired parody that I spare us from.
I honestly don't even recognize Steven Crowder when he's not wearing one of his little outfits or like sexually harassing his staff. It's like,
There's
who's
no
this guy?
Either.
There's no holsters, and he's not teabagging anybody. Who even is this man?
Who is this guy?
Nice one. It's true. He should.
Yeah, he for sure should get fired. You know what he should do? You were saying this earlier. He should resign.
Sorry, they're talking about Mike Waltz.
Yep, that was the subject of the Somebody's Getting Fired.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah, because they need a fall guy here, or at least they seem to think so. But maybe Trump doesn't. We'll see.
Agree with you.
Yes.
Make it easy on everybody.
Let me give you the timeline here a little bit. And to be clear, Tulsi Gabbard, President Trump may not have known. Right. CIA Director John Ratcliffe may not have known. They said that there was no class.
Now that's a little bit of cope, and this is what's funny about this is like it's Crowder doing his best. This is damage control 101, and you need. And Tulsi Gabbard is in trouble because she said.
She may have perjured herself.
DNI. She's like, yeah, I don't think there was anything classified on that thing where we're talking about F-18s and went exactly down to the minute they're leaving on
and
bombing
targets.
raids. And very clear, and she's actually the one who sort of set along the chain of events that prompted Goldberg to actually publish, because if she's saying like, well, there's nothing in there, then fine, all right.
Right.
There's nothing in there, but all right, let's just go a little bit more. But they, of course, knew, and it's a problem with them too. But.
And the problem is that this is likely a broader practice across all agencies because they're trying to avoid oversight and the Presidential Records Act, which would require all of these communications to be archived.
And Crowder sort of alludes to that, saying they're trying to avoid the deep state, which didn't work for Hillary Clinton, did it?
Trump was trying to avoid the deep state by hoarding all those secret documents in his bathroom just because of the deep state.
Classified info that had been shared. Okay? So did President Trump may not have known. Right. CIA Director John Ratcliffe may not have known. They said that there was no classified info that had been shared. Okay? So did Pete Hegseth, though. The problem here is that he knew because he would have been the one who sent them.
Yes.
So this morning, Jeffrey Goldberg.
Bluff.
Yeah, Jeffrey Goldberg, who I do not like at all. To be clear. and you'll understand in a moment just how much I don't like him. He released more text detailing specific plans. So to give you an idea, here they are. Here's a timeline, references available, link in the description. 12:15 Eastern, F-18s launch the first strike package at 1:45. Trigger-based F-18 first strike. Window starts at 2:15. There were strikes, drone strikes on a target there as far as we're dealing with the Houthis.
So this matters. This matters. This is definitely when the first bombs will definitely drop.
Yeah.
At a specific time.
In
Not a
all
location.
caps.
Oh, gosh. This is the precise moment to take cover.
Hey, there's nothing classified in here.
Fine, I get it.
These are the texts saying this is when the first bombs will
nothing?
definitely drop.
This isn't war plans.
There is there is no classified information. Is this not? This is definitely when the first bombs will drop.
Well, son of a.
That could be anything.
Yeah.
Okay, but they did drop right here, right? Coincidence? At 3:36.
We didn't say what kind of bombs it was going to be or how much, they'd weigh.
You have the F-18, the second strikes begin to start. There was the first sea-based Tomahawks that were launched.
Oh, they did.
And then the texts also show the aftermath. So this is, again, look, you just have to be, people come out and say there was absolutely nothing classified. There were not war plans. And this guy goes, all right. I mean, I just don't understand how you mishandle it like this. And especially when you look at it now and you see Walter like, this is absolutely wrong. There's nothing classified.
Yes.
Well, he said there was classified. Then he said there kind of wasn't. And when Pete Hegseth said there wasn't, again, Tulsi, Gabbard, and Donald Trump may not know, but Hegseth knows. Vance knows. So here are some texts in the aftermath from Waltz. Typing too fast. The first target, their top missile guy. We had positive ID of him walking into his girlfriend's building, and it's now collapsed. J.D. Vance, excellent.
It's right after the strike in this text.
Right after.
Now that part, I mean, we should just pause on how heinous that is, and how this is just a normal part of the sort of world order that we're supposed to be proud of preserving. That based on half the world away, seeing a guy enter what we think to be his girlfriend's apartment, we just collapse that entire building, killing dozens and dozens of people, and then just without any sort of further information besides the building collapse, we do thumbs up emojis. Like, talk about Verhoeven.
America fire. But again, they hate us for our freedom.
After
And that's
strike.
That part, honestly, that part is fine. But JD Vance, like
Part's fine for him.
JD Vance
was responding. He knows that these are classified at this point.
He needs to advise President Trump really well. Like, hey, I was on that thread. I responded to that. Here's some of the information that was in there. Let's handle this differently.
If this was just about like, hey, look, we don't know how this guy got added and it should never happen again. And someone said, hey, the reason we went to Signal is because it's hard to know who to trust here as far as our encrypted apps that obviously other people have access to. And we had so many leaks in the first Trump term.
Got him.
We've tried to take precautions. We're going to do a better job. That's fine. The problem is the lie, saying there's nothing classified in there, and you give the left ammo. Don't give them an easy win.
I like that they're nervous about this.
No, it's crazy.
I think it's because it's so undeniable, like I was saying earlier. I mean, what is your guys' take on why this is the thing that seems to be putting them on their heels? Is it because it's so sloppy and the lies were so quickly disproved by Goldberg just putting out the screenshots?
I mean, I think he said it right there, right? Like, that's what matters to them. Like, they don't care about any sort of the actual real world repercussions or implications or what it means for anyone involved with what happened with the bombing. It was all about, we gave the left an easy win here. Like, the leak itself gave the left ammunition that we can't deny because there they are right in the chat saying this stuff. Ooh, like that's I guess the big deal to them, right? Not like this was something horrific that happened, or
why are we spending money on this when we're supposed to be America first?
Right.
But also even looking at it from like Matt just did, even further looking at it from their point of view, because obviously they don't care about innocent lives over there in Yemen or anything. Even from their point of view, though, it's like we're supposed to be all about national security and taking care of America first, and here we are just like letting this secret classified info go with someone we invite, an outsider that we invited in the chat. Like, it's incredible, but that's what they care about, and I guess that's why they're so upset about it.
I think the clumsiness is definitely part of the issue, but I think even just to zoom out a little bit, we're seeing like Trump supporters throughout the media peel off due to issue after issue in his sort of second term in a way that kind of, to me, mirrors like Bush, Bush the lesser's second term, where he comes in, he swift boats John Kerry. People are still pro-war. They're still pro-invasion of Afghanistan, war on terror, Iraq, all that other stuff. And then around 2005 to, late 2005, suddenly you hear like just like a shift in popular culture, shift in right-wing media, shift across the board of people just be feeling more comfortable expressing dissatisfaction with the Bush administration. I think, that's happening in record time with Trump's second term due to any number of reasons. The tariff wars that are causing the economy to collapse, his running on America first and then unmitigated support for Israel. Like all of these things are causing people across the right-wing media to have, a reason to distance themselves from him if they want to maintain their, bona fides with their own supporters, with their own listener base. So I think you're just seeing people growing dissatisfaction with Trump.
I think that might have been driven by the tariff thing, because we know that there's a majority of the Republicans who are in power, and say the financial press, whether it's CNBC or Fox Business, they just care if line go up. And that's the problem with what Trump is doing here, is that, he's enriching the billionaires that are a part of his administration and that are in his circle, but he's not enriching, I feel like, the rest of the capitalist class immediately in the way that maybe it looked like he might at the beginning. We'll see what happens with this budget and with the tax cuts for the rich. That's going to be a huge benefit to them and to worsening income inequality. But I mean, you even see Laura Ingraham doing the interview with him in the Oval Office, and he's so diminished. I think this is the other story that doesn't get talked about enough. It's like he's lazy and tired and sleepy. He seems to be outsourcing decision making to Stephen Miller based on those texts, and I feel like you can see it in the way that they're treating immigrants and pro-Palestine demonstrators. And in that interview with Ingram, he's just kind of fixated on the way the Oval Office is decorated, the little curtain he put in front of the Declaration of Independence. I mean, this is a person who is close to the end of his life. Yeah. And we've now consecutively over the past 3 presidential elections elected the oldest person ever to be elected. It was Trump the first time, broke the record. Then Biden broke the record. And now Trump 2.0 is older than when we elected Biden last time.
He said he didn't know why people were including Pete Hegseth in the story.
He's all over the story. He's maybe the main character.
He's completely checked out. It's going to be as apparent as it was with Biden.
Yeah,
and he's another he also said something like there was maybe a technical issue with Signal, like it was a tech bug or something. Yeah, like he was like, oh, maybe there's something wrong with Signal. He doesn't even know what Signal is.
Well, that's the thing is it goes against their core argument. Just the way they attack Goldberg, it's like, and he's a nasty scum sucker. It's like, well, yeah, that's why it's egregious that you included him in bombing plans.
Yeah,
but also another area of this that's interesting is in order for Goldberg of The Atlantic to be added to this group chat, the person who added him had to have had him in his contacts.
Yep.
There had to be some sort of previous, Waltz. So there had to be some sort of previous contact between the two for him to even be recommended, because Signal doesn't just randomly recommend you someone as you're typing out a name to add to a chat. It brings up, this is person's in your contacts. This might be who you mean. And based on the Venmo stuff that came out, there were other journalists too. So is Waltz a leaker now? Previous to from the Trump administration to journalists. Now, previously Trump would be very upset over something like that in that first administration. Any sort of leak would or question of you possibly being a leaker would have you immediately a suspect and probably lose your position in the administration. And now Trump is just hands off about it. It's very weird. He's totally checked out.
He doesn't care about those kinds of leaks. I mean, this is a part. The Doge stuff is exposing all of our personal data to the world, to these little Groyper staffers and to Elon Musk, our social security number, our bank information, what have you, our home addresses. That is like this is if this was done by a Democrat or really like in another time, this would be considered one of the most like a mass data breach of our most sensitive information that people in other circumstances might go to prison for. But because this is sanctioned by Trump, because he needs to help Elon Musk make Twitter into, I don't know, PayPal 2.0, and it's very valuable to have every American's bank information and financial data for that. Oh, it just doesn't necessarily matter because like the leaks that Trump cares about are the stuff that makes him look bad. That's what he means by leaks and whistleblowers.
Not only that, like
Epstein files.
Epstein files, yeah.
But not only that, what you just mentioned, on top of that, I think also like if this was a Democrat who accidentally added a journalist to their group chat, you'd have the conservative conspiracy being like, oh, the media is working in cahoots with the Democrats, with President Obama or President Biden, because why else would they have that contact? You know, maybe he didn't mean to add him in this one, but were they going to like draft some like nicer PR thing for based on all this information for the Atlantic, who would then just take that that press release and package it to give to their readers? Like, you know, it's not like they accidentally leaked it to some lefty critical reporter or journalist either. Like, I'm not even, it's possible that, you know, Waltz isn't leaking something to Goldberg. It's possible that Waltz and Goldberg have a very cordial relationship with the administration overall, especially when it comes to things regarding Israel. And that's why he has their contact, to make sure that the administration's point of view is perfectly wrapped up for Goldberg and the Atlantic to distribute exactly the way they want to frame it.
Well, Goldberg was a former IDF prison guard. We've talked about that. And is he American or Israeli? Because
I'm not sure.
I mean,
I don't think he's born in Israel.
He wasn't born in Israel, because then that
he's
means
born
that
in New York.
Born in New York. So he's not. That means that it's not necessary. Okay, yeah, he moved to Israel and served in the IDF during the first Intifada. So it's not like he was a part of the compulsory military service in Israel. He just like really wanted to go over there and stick it to those Palestinians. So like the Atlantic is, I can't think of a magazine that's more pro-Israel or our pro-national security state. And that's why Waltz had his contact, is because like he thought he could use him for propaganda in the future. It's not shocking to me at all, but it was a pretty big mistake to go after him like this. When they publicly claimed that there was no classified information, they were just like insulting him immediately. He goes like, all right, I mean, I'll just put out these screenshots that prove me exactly correct. I mean, well played, everybody.
That's exactly.
I still can't believe he Oh, go ahead, Brandon.
No, I was going to say, it reminds me exactly of when like Lauren Boebert got like exposed for like inappropriate activity, like vaping and blowing smoke into like a woman's face at the Beetlejuice production in, where's she from? Colorado. It's like Denver, Colorado. And it seems like to be like their, you know, the right-wing victim / entitlement complex, their first impulse is to lie and dare someone to call them out on their lie. And then when they do get called on their lie, they have no real like way to get around it other than to like all, you know, amp up the demeaning, amp up the ad hominem, and then like disappear in embarrassment, hoping it blows over. And then like a week from now, they'll be, when people ask about, they'll be doing that thing where like, oh, you're so obsessed with that. You're obsessed with talking about that situation that was really bad that happened.
Right. What's wrong with you? Total Trump derangement.
Derangement syndrome. He's trying to get that off the ground now. It's like, yeah, okay, bro.
All right.
Although I do think, looping back around to your point, Emma, before Matt jumps in real quick, I think that, like, yeah, Trump is low energy. Like, he's clearly lost a lot of the charisma. If you watch him speak now, he doesn't have as many of those, like, fun moments about water pressure. It's all just, like, you know, cyclical talking. But, like, the presence of Musk in combination with, like, Trump's diminished persona allows for, like, a very easy vehicle for people to criticize the presidency now. Like, you know, because you don't have to criticize Trump anymore. You can just criticize Musk. You can criticize a lot more the people he surrounds himself with, because like he surrounded himself with even more openly corrupt and like incompetent figures in his first term.
To add to your point briefly, in Pennsylvania, they just flipped a state Senate seat. It was a plus 15 Trump district. And the guy the Democrat that won ran exclusively anti-Musk. Like that was his whole thing. So
I mean, Trump is like completely checked out. Like his day now consists of him making some random announcements on Truth Social, and then you hear about him going golfing.
Yep.
Like, and the announcements are like, yeah, I signed a few executive orders, and maybe there'll be some, press photos of him signing those executive orders. But other than that, this is a totally different Trump from the first term, where he was very clearly in charge. He was front and center every day. Maybe he's planning it this way purposefully. Who knows? He's more than willing to throw anyone but himself under the bus. Yeah. But back to Jeffrey Goldberg, though, it still amazes me that he removed himself from the chat.
I know.
Like it is so amazing to me. Like he was added to the chat. There was not that information was all being offered to him. He was in the clear. Maybe if there were specific names that would put their, who were involved in a mission that would put their, health or lives at risk, you would redact those. But otherwise, everything he was given was basically in the clear because they put him in the chat and he fucking removes himself. It's stunning.
Well,
That's journalism, baby.
Yeah, like I totally agree. It's interesting. Like when you take a screenshot on Signal, that's when they notify the other user. You can't take screenshots, is my recollection.
There's actually ways around that. Even you just connect your phone to your computer, and you can just take screenshots of the phone mirror imaging to your desktop or laptop,
or just take a photo. With someone else's phone of your phone. Yeah. So I guess even the best faith excuse I could come up with isn't even that legitimate.
Whomst among us hasn't CC'd the wrong person on a work email? Whomst among us hasn't left the attachment, hasn't, sent a
Actually, I have never done that. Never once done any.
You've never, I did, taken a screenshot of something someone else sent you and then tried to send it to somebody else, shit talking that person, and then sent it immediately back to that person. I think about that once, that thing I did in college once a month. And my stomach drops every single time.
Note to self, if I ever become the president, Emma's not invited to my Signal chats.
That was horrible. Okay, let's take a call here. Calling from a 682 area code. Who's this? Where you calling from?
Hey, hello, Emma. This is from North Texas, not Nick Fuentes. Can you hear me?
Not Nick Fuentes from North Texas. We hear you great. How you doing?
I have a theory about these people not using WhatsApp instead of Signal. It's probably because WhatsApp is using, is sending all that data to Meta, so Mark Zuckerberg can see that, and they will just pass that data to Donald Trump easily. So that's why they're using Signal. I'm surprised they're not using Telegram because otherwise.
Well, I'll say this, just in media, in the rare instances I've ever communicated with a politician, it's been on Signal. So it's kind of a thing in DC.
Of all the major messaging apps, Signal is actually the most secure. Like, this isn't a Signal issue. This was a user error. Like, this is not Signal's fault or problem.
Yeah.
The Signal is actually, of all the major messaging apps, the most secure. There have been situations where they've been subpoenaed for the information they have, and literally all they have is, I believe, your telephone number and the date and time you signed up for Signal. Other than that, they store none of the information on their servers. It's all encrypted, peer-to-peer, stored on device. So that's the main reason why Signal is used. But with that said, Signal is also banned from government issued phones because of the fact that it is
right.
It is not secure, obviously, because the device is not secure. Because if the device is in terms of if the device is
bugged
or get into the device, they have access to that stuff. So the way these communications should be done, and when it comes to classified material, is technically like in person or through like intranet communication systems where it could only be run on very secure government devices that don't allow anything else on it. So they failed both of those. Like Signal, like they had to use Signal on their personal phones, which is even more incredible that they were sharing this stuff on their personal device.
Remember the whole personal server thing about these are sort of personal servers you have in your pockets.
The real question is, why weren't they using X group DMs if it's so secure? Like, why weren't they
An indictment.
over the Everything app?
And then
Elon Musk will say everything.
yeah, Grok would have been like, this should be classified information.
Yeah, I also have another thing about, one last thing before I leave. This whole thing, Jeffrey Goldberg serving in the military and the Atlantic being pro-Israel, is probably because the Koch brothers and the Wilkes brothers, the guys that funded the Daily Wire and PragerU, are the same ones funding the Atlantic. So that's probably I'm kind of like have this. The Atlantic is right, but they're Zionists. But they're right. But they're also Zionists, and I just go back and forth.
Well,
And,
you can hold two thoughts, I think, at the same time, right? Which is the sense that, like, the Atlantic, they're a center-right paper, they're Zionists, it's not my paper of choice, but they are correct in this instance, right? So, appreciate the call, though. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye.
I don't know about the Koch brothers owning the Atlantic or funding the Atlantic.
Yeah,
either.
I would have to verify
I think
that.
it's shitty on its own accord.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they just post like garbage for the love of the game. They just post like neoliberal slop for the love of the game.
For the love of the game.
Yeah.
We'll take another call here, and then we'll get to some clips. Calling from a 910 area code. Who's this where you're calling from?
Oh, hey, this is Henry from North Carolina. How you guys doing?
Henry from North Carolina. Doing all right. How about you?
I'm doing okay. I have a random idea that we might be able to get the minimum wage raised even under Trump. And that is, my suggestion is to raise the minimum wage to $17.76. And then anytime the Republicans say, hey, that's not a good idea. Hey, why? Do you not like 1776? Why do you?
That's
why
the
do you hate
1776 project.
And then we can do 1865.
Yeah.
No, we do.
I don't know,
47.
this
We go
could-
straight for $47 an hour in honor of our 47th president.
2025, yeah.
Yeah.
But this could also blow up in our face, and they might lower it to 1488.
Oh.
I'd be closer to 50.
Yeah.
Well,
At least we're moving in the right direction
That would
from
get
what
the-
750 that we have.
Yeah, that would get us in the 2015 Fight for 15 vintage. You know,
Yeah.
1488 is the closest we can do. Okay.
That's a compromise, Binder.
But I think that the 1776 rhetoric would work really well, because anytime you're like, what, do you not like 1776? I mean, I think 1776 is a great idea. I love 1776. Don't you love 1776? Why does Ted Cruz hate 1776?
Think some states don't need
What's the
1776?
Yeah. Well, I want 1776 in all 50 states. Are you not patriotic enough to sign on board? You know who would love this idea is one Sam Seder, Henry from North Carolina.
Yeah. I think the problem is, I think the reason Ted Cruz is against this is he just doesn't love America as much as we do. I think it's just really too bad that the Republicans hate America.
It is. They're not patriotic enough.
It's really sad.
Appreciate the call. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. 502 Drew, did you all see the clip of Dave Rubin on Piers Morgan? His whole argument revolved around Signal being preloaded on their government-issued equipment. Clearly a lie. He also has devolved into saying how Biden had dementia. He's such a lightweight. Tim from the Bulwark started asking him about being paid by Russia and tenant media. Funny stuff. Let's pull that for tomorrow.
He must have got really mad about that.
Yeah. I mean, we saw how Tim reacted. Comrade Lindor, my fiance said they need a Hippocratic oath for journalists. Do not leave group chats. The secret fucking adds you to. I think you
Also, let's go Mets.
Yeah, right. I mean, what?
Well,
4 p.m. first pitch.
Yep.
Maybe a different Lindor could possibly be not a Mets reference, Binder. But I did think about it too.
It's
Sorry.
today, that's on my mind.
It's on my mind too. What were you saying, Brandon?
oh no, nothing. Sorry.
Okay. Who should I launch the flack again? Who should right. I have the Saudis on the other line hit me up on Snapchat when we scramble the counterfighters. Trilly flopped. Pete Hegseth was a DUI hire, but this scandal should be called Whiskey Leaks. That's pretty good. It's unfortunate because it's more Mike Waltz's problem, so we can't fully do that, but that is well said. Inconsistent Crab. They weren't war plans. They weren't war plans. They weren't war plans. If I shout out loud enough times, it makes it true. They weren't war plans.
I just love so much that the Atlantic in one of their more recent headlines called them attack plans, and that was the right's big gotcha. Aha!
I mean,
yeah, we played that earlier.
That's a they weren't war plans thing. That's the type of pedantry that Republicans always do. It's like, well, it's not actually a machine gun or an automatic rifle, so you don't know what you're talking about. It's like, well, this kid's dead. So, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tiny Tigers. I know it's all couched in a deep layer of pointless YouTube drama, but I want to petition the promotion of Ethan Klein to right-wing grifter LOL cow, a la Jimmy Dore or Dave Rubin. He has an audience of millions and insists that people take his opinions on Israel seriously. I think it would be worthwhile for the Majority Report to oblige him. I'm not opposed to it.
I don't know. I think we have our sights on kind of important things typically on this program, but I would recommend a video. I think it's Noah Samson. I'll look this up. Take another IM.
Oh, right. That there was a video. I watched a bit of it. That video essay on his really kind of concerning obsession with Hassan. Like, I don't diagnose anybody with anything, but it's very bizarre how much he talks about somebody who he used to be friends with. Like, it's like very
it's
It
nasty.
seems like that's the entire show now. Yeah, it's just talking about Hassan, which is very
a good video here
Yeah.
because the original video Noah did was the YouTubers who supported a genocide and did a nice video.
Yep.
Almost 500,000 views. Good. Go be another one of those for Noah here. I'll just make his. Yeah, that's Noah Samson.
Noah Samson.
Yeah, good video there. I think we'll leave it to like sort of these sorts of accounts that do a good job and these video essays. I think to kind of put all the evidence out there. But I think the attacks on Hassan, I think are absolutely heinous. I think they directly contribute to what we're seeing with students being picked up off the street for allegedly being anti-Semitic. It's all a lie. It's all a lie. The anti-Semitism. There's not significant anti-Semitism among protesters of Israel. There is an anti-Semitism issue that exists. Unfortunately, the ADL is too busy saying, hey, let's all relax. It's a tense moment. Disregard the Sig Hails by the rich guy in the office. So yeah, like check out the Noah Samson video.
Yep. Ramona Frankenstein, Rumesa Ozturk's detention has really bothered me. It hits way too close to home for me. Somerville is one of my favorite places, and Nazis are now black bagging people there for the crime of free speech. Free Rumesa and throw the ICE terrorists under the Hague. Agreed, Ramona. It's deeply disturbing how a lot of this is coming out of Massachusetts right now.
And how disgusting. I mean, all the projection, like we see all the stuff about systemic rape done by Israelis being documented, but also this thing started, remember the whole would you hide me thing that Zionists were doing after October 7th? And now we have actually like young students on visas hiding from the ICE right now, and there's no real reflection from any Zionists. They fucking love it. Canary Mission, ADL, all of it. They are participants in this. They're active participants.
Yep.
Right. Some of these groups are providing the names. Some of the groups are providing the
Literally.
names to the Trump administration.
Yep.
Well, I think a lot of that initial stuff, a lot of the initial like claims about what happened on October 7th were aimed at like getting liberal voters on board, like, laundering this kind of brutality, their desire for genocide to like the average Democratic Party voter who can be, have their theoretical care for marginalized groups like Jewish people, like women, weaponized against them when you have a platform to do so. And now that like after a year and a half of brutality has led to like the Democratic Party and most liberals too just not being in support of the genocide, they're just going full mask off with a lot of this stuff. And because they know with a Republican president, there's very little chance that they're going to be stopped, because Republicans, they never cared about that stuff anyway. They never cared about any justification other than like we should kill all Muslim people because they're like backwards or barbaric.
Exactly. this is a good transition here. So the right wing is currently, again, obsessed with a Disney film. These are adult men in their 40s
Mufasa?
and 50s who are just, what'd you say?
Mufasa, because the lions are black. They're voiced by black people.
That's a good guess, but this time it's about the live action remake of Snow White, which it's unfortunate because I really like Rachel Zegler. I really like her politics, but this movie is not something I would have seen even if the other lead wasn't a rabid Zionist who was doing the hosting those that trauma porn stuff about October 7th, these screenings in the United States, and was pretty integral to it. She served in the IDF as well. I think although she is Israeli, that's compulsory, but still is not somebody who has spoken out against the genocide by any means.
I don't know that I've ever seen a Gal Gadot movie, and to the extent that I can control it, I never will.
I saw Wonder Woman. The first one was good. The second one is one of the worst movies I've ever seen, and she is not a very good actress. So
she's not good in any movie I've ever seen her in. I've never seen a movie with Gal Gadot in there. I'm like, this movie is better because Gal Gadot is in it.
Usually I can say that about Zegler. Like, she really elevated West Side Story, as did the woman who won Best Supporting Actress. I'm forgetting her name. But
ironically, all the people who are attacking Snow White because of Rachel Zegler, all the movie critics who've actually seen the movie are all saying that she is the highlight of the movie. Like, she's the one redeeming aspect of the movie. Like, she puts on a performance that saves the movie from being an absolute waste.
And that movie, it just is a waste because what is just annoying about Hollywood right now is, especially Disney, this cheap kind of reimagining of old classic fairy tales and making them live action. I mean, they did it with The Lion King, and I saw that in theaters, and that, like, the technology was beautiful, and so you're kind of wowed by it for the first 15 minutes, and then you realize, like, they're just doing the same movie I know, but with different animation. And that's kind of how all of these have been. And so it's diminishing returns. People don't want to see this in theaters anymore. And maybe you shouldn't have done a $250 million budget on this kind of thing, especially when Snow White, the story, is really outdated, is not great when it comes to things like consent or the treatment of people who are of shorter stature, and that created this whole kind of situation. But I don't know if I'm saying the right term. I just want to be sensitive. My point is just like this fixation on this by adult men on the right. It's bizarre, but I bring you Ben Shapiro, who they're all blaming Zegler for saying free Palestine for the reason that this movie bombed, as opposed to everything I just said, which is that I don't think anybody was really interested in this movie to begin with, and they don't include the fact that Gal Gadot is a part of this as a reason that this movie bombs. It's just the fact that the other co-star was pro-Palestinian.
In cultural news, Snow White, there's been an enormous amount of controversy surrounding Snow White, obviously, because of everything from the original decisions with regard to casting to the insane, hardcore, nasty leftism of Rachel Zegler attacking her own co-star for being Israeli. And generally attacking men and suggesting that Snow White was a sexist story and all this.
Can you pause it?
Controversy has been dogging this.
How is it not a sexist story? She's kissed while she's sleeping without her consent. Like, this didn't need a new reimagining. It's just maybe best left in history.
To be fair, for this reimagining, they got rid of that. There is no prince. So they got rid of all that.
Okay. Well, then.
Yeah.
And also, I thought that the main issue with casting in the beginning was that Rachel Zegler wasn't like white enough.
She's Latino. Yeah. That's what they were upset
about. That was the big issue.
Which again, Latinos can be white, like too, like people who are like from South America can be white, but that's for.
Well, the Crowder team got in legal trouble because they were unable to understand that basic fact. But go ahead.
but also they changed that in the movie too. The Snow White being the fairest of them all is no longer about her looks or her skin color. It's about her literally being the fairest person to all the regular ordinary citizens of the land. That's what they changed it to.
I want the white skin.
The only fairness I care about is men and women's sports sometimes when I remember to.
Well,
not about
What's funny about this from a Daily Wire perspective is, and we've sort of talked about this recently, Jeremy Boring is out. Brett Cooper is out. Brett Cooper sort of raising an eyebrow at the removal of Jeremy Boring. Brett Cooper came to the Daily Wire starring in Snow White and the Evil Queen, which is her playing Snow White as like an actual fair-skinned Snow White. But now we don't know what the status of that movie is, which this would be the perfect opportunity for Daily Wire to be crushing right now because there's all of this like Zionist freak out about Ziegler.
Yeah.
But but they can't because they're imploding
That's
themselves.
fun.
Who knows how far they've even gotten in filming that? Maybe it's not even ever going to be a thing because they
We
didn't
can watch
even
the
do it.
teaser after the fact.
Yes,
yeah.
we should.
Also, just quickly, as a movie fan, as like a movie buff, I find the presumption that every movie is going to like be gangbusters to be such a weird thing that like only some movie companies allowed to of course, if we make Snow White, we have projected it to make $1 billion, and if it doesn't make that $1 billion, there must be some like deeper reasons. Like maybe no one wants to see this movie.
That's
like,
what I'm saying.
No one,
I mean, also.
Yeah.
Also, I should say that after the today ends and the box office money comes in for today, it's very likely it's currently sitting at number 7, the 7 highest grossing movie of the year so far. It's going to be number 6 after today. I mean, that's a failure in terms of how much they spent on making the movie, but I wouldn't call the 6th highest grossing movie of the year so far, only in its first week out, a failure. You know, like this is just
modern
like
media. That's like, you know, if it doesn't make all the money, it basically made none of the money. And if you tell me like that you spent $500 million, just throwing a number out there, to make a live action Snow White movie, I would go like, you wasted that money. Why would you spend so much money on something like that? Like,
we'll get to the blame game in a sec. Let's just let Shapiro finish because we have some developments from the multimillionaire producers who want to throw their actress under the bus.
This movie since the very beginning. So much so that the Daily Wire, I think we played a major role in basically forcing Disney to go reshoot it. Well, it didn't help, apparently. Disney's Snow White was essentially a box office dud. Early estimates suggested that they would take in 48 to 58 million in the first weekend. Apparently, it did 43 million in its first weekend. It cost $270 million to make.
Wait, so can I just say like 48? They projected 48 and they got 43? Like,
yeah.
Not okay.
Okay, it's a little underperformance.
It bombed. It bombed.
Why do I care this much?
I know.
Like I like at the start of this, he's like, and culture news, the thing I actually like talking about.
Yeah.
And $70 million. Obviously, it was going to win the box office. It's the biggest movie at the box office this weekend. But, for example, Disney's Cinderella, which for my money is still the only good live action Disney remake.
How old are you?
It was directed by Kenneth Branagh, who actually is a terrific director.
Does he mean the one with
that
Brandy? Oh.
No, he's referring to the white one that came out like 10 years ago.
Oh, I'm thinking of Beauty and the Beast with Emma Watson. That one was all right.
I've not heard of any of these.
Yeah.
They were all bad. All of the live action
They're all
movies.
bad.
The live action ones
are
are
not very
not
good. I've heard Dumbo was all right with Danny DeVito.
Yeah, but like, I mean,
that's the one that did the worst, actually, the Dumbo one.
All right, keep going.
$91.8 million in its opening weekend against a $138 million budget. Both figures adjusted for inflation.
Is this politics?
But this live action remake is a giant fail. It is not doing well at the box office. When it comes to the Rotten Tomatoes score on this thing, even the critics are not in love with Disney's Snow White. It's clocking in at 44%. The cinema score, which is basically how audiences respond to the film, is a B+, which generally is not terrible, but it actually is quite terrible with regard to kids' films. Kids' films are graded on a curve. There's never been a Disney live-action remake that is graded lower than an A-, except for Snow White.
It's a B+.
By one grade.
Americans are not in love.
By one grade. This is pathetic.
Also,
he's just mad he wasn't casted as Dopey in the movie. Like when they decided not to use like actual like. Sorry.
I mean, he did sort of hint at like what they should be like what makes their whole all this freak out from the right over this the most ridiculous. It is a kids movie. It is a movie made for children. Oh. Yes, you could look at it critically, but as a film critic or filmmaker but at the end of the day, you cannot look at it without that added addendum that you are not the targeted audience. Yes. They made this movie for children, and kids are enjoying it, as far as I know, to the point where they're forced to give it at least a B+. Yes, I mean,
But
I don't know what else to say.
Yeah. Just a little more of this.
Curve. There's never been a Disney live action remake that is graded lower than an A- except for Snow White. It turns out
How'd you know
Americans are not in love with the politics of Disney. I think this is the last gasp of old Disney. And when I say old Disney, I mean sort of the regime that decided that wokeness needed to be infused in every movie. If they keep going along this path, they're going to go bankrupt. I mean, they really are going to be in serious, serious trouble. They can't keep churning out trash IP based on some of the greatest IP ever created and hope that audiences are going to keep showing up at the box office. Well, folks, in order to determine just how badly Snow White is doing at the box office,
now it's an ass. I just want to leave that in because he's talking about IP.
Kid.
Yeah.
This is the theater kid version of the video game incels going like, they're ruining my childhood. Like, this is the theater kid version of that. He's upset that they took a Disney classic and made it for a targeted audience that isn't an 8-year-old or 7-year-old Ben Shapiro. Like, that's what he's upset about.
Yep.
It's the same freak out over Little Mermaid, the same freak out of any of these Disney movies. Now, them being bad movies is a secondary point to them. For them, it upsets them that anything was done to change what was theirs when they were children.
Yeah, I would even add the point, go a little further and say, like, some people just have a hard time understanding that they're not the target for every media. And I would even
white men.
I would a lot of people, and I would even, but mostly white men.
Yeah.
But I would argue that Disney is a big part of making people feel that way too, because they try, and media has become like this. It tries to be so widespread that people oftentimes feel comfortable articulating, as a grown adult, like Ben Shapiro, that like the Disney princess movie didn't make them feel as empowered as they wanted it to feel. But like Disney sells itself on being a place where like, oh, not just kids can go, but adults, and so you do kind of invite these types of criticism from people who think they should be making it. But yeah, I mean, probably people didn't see it because you can watch Snow White at home. You can put on the old Snow White for free and watch it at home, and it is definitely a better movie than whatever this was.
Look, I grew up, I wasn't that into princess movies, but I saw all of them, and by far Snow White was my least favorite. Like, Cinderella's better, The Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, Pocahontas back in the day, although the story is horrible. Like, those are the kinds of things that I like those movies all more than Snow White, because Snow White, it's the IP, it's their original animation, so the story's pretty outdated. But
it's some of the best IP of all time.
Some of the best IP. Talking about intellectual property like that, like he's talking like he's a Disney executive and speaking about it in those cynical terms. But I just want to. Even the Ben Shapiro stuff is almost secondary to the thrust of this story here, which is that Variety, like I guess it was yesterday, published this article. It's like a trade publication for Hollywood, and this author of this piece has been doing these multiple hit pieces on behalf of, frankly, executives against people who are speaking against the genocide and other issues as well. She's on the Justin Baldoni train or whatever. But this is how this article frames it. After Rachel Zegler hit the stage at Disney's D23 fan event to introduce the first official trailer of Snow White, she thanked supporters exclusively in an X post. 1 minute later, she added an afterthought in the same thread, and always remember Free Palestine. Many inside the studio expressed shock that the Snow White star would commingle the promotion of its $270 million tentpole with any kind of political statement. A Disney executive raised the studio's concerns with Zegler's team, while the film's producer Mark Platt flew to New York to speak directly with her. But Zegler stood her ground, and the post remained. Brave, brave, brave. So Mark Platt is a mega producer in Hollywood. His son, Ben Platt, starred as a nearly 30-year-old man in the Dear Evan Hansen remake, which also, by the way, flopped at the box office.
It was a huge bomb. Way bigger bomb.
No
way. It was
panned by critics, but bankrolled by Daddy, mega producer, who's also a massive Zionist. His other son is this guy, Jonah, who I guess is a podcaster. He decided to respond to a comment on his Instagram post and then delete it, saying this. The person said, your dad flew to New York City to reprimand a young actress. Any words on this? Because that's creepy as hell and uncalled for. People have the right to free speech. No shame on your father. He responds, You really want to do this? Yeah, my dad, the producer of an enormous piece of Disney IP. Again, this is supposed to be art. Stop talking about intellectual property. You
That's all it is to these people.
It's not anymore. That's where we are. People have learned to supplant the artist with the company.
It's also not just these people. It's not just like right wingers, or it's the sad state of like where we are in today. Seriously, like so many people look at like the rise of AI and how people get excited that they could write a couple of words and art comes up as if they actually created something.
Yes.
There's no respect for art, artistry, the artist, the craft, whatever. You don't have to be a good artist.
Yes.
That's even subjective. The point is you made something with your own hands or whatever on the computer. You did it yourself. I'm talking about like, creating like digital art. You made it yourself though. And there is pride in seeing your creation, your idea come to fruition. That is belittled now, all for chasing the almighty dollar. Yes, money has always been a factor, but never before, more so than ever before. Now that is all it's about. How much money is something worth?
Yep. All right, let me finish.
People don't even
this.
think it's art. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's all right. The Disney IP, blah blah blah. With hundreds of millions of dollars on the line, had to leave his family. Oh no, he had to fly private across the country to reprimand his 20-year-old employee for dragging her personal politics into the middle of promoting the movie, for which she signed a multi-million-dollar contract to get paid and do publicity for. This is called adult responsibility and accountability, and her actions clearly hurt the film's box office. Free speech does not mean you're allowed to say whatever you want in your private employment without repercussions. Tens of thousands of people worked on the film, and she hijacked the conversation for her own immature desires at the risk of all the colleagues and crew and blue-collar workers who depend on the movie to be successful. Narcissism is not something to be coddled or encouraged.
Take it from me, the son of a Hollywood executive.
Hey, Jonah, I'm not in Hollywood. My dad's not an executive producer or a big producer of a film like this, a multi-million dollar production. But do crew members, blue-collar workers get royalties? I don't really remember that. They get royalties. They get paid based on if the film is successful or not. I mean, I'd like to see the finer details of that. And even if that were the case, then you should apply the exact same standard to the film's co-star, the Zionist propagandist who was presiding over like the basically snuff films that were being played all over the country as Israel committed a genocide, to manufacture consent and to get people in this state of hysteria so they would continue to justify the slaughter of Palestinians over and over again. That can't have hurt the film's box office. I mean, for me, I'm never seeing a Gal Gadot film ever again. So, and I know other people who feel the same way. So that, like, anecdotally, I would say that I know people that wouldn't see this movie because she's in it. I haven't heard that about Rachel Zegler, but this guy seems to think that that's the sole reason. Or the fact, hey, maybe your dad made a bad business decision. I don't know about that, because putting $270 million into a film like this seems like pretty stupid business to me.
And I just want to underline the idea that this is because of her saying Free Palestine, that is the most insane. The only person that could believe that is an insane narcissistic Zionist, which is what it appears Jonah Platt is. Did you see what his podcast is?
What?
Being Jewish with Jonah Platt. So
Well,
there's a few things here. Number one, I got to highlight that line where he says that his dad, Mark Platt, had to fly and take time away from his family. You would assume he's talking about like a family with like little children.
Yeah.
Like Mark Platt's youngest son is like 35 years old or something. Like, you left your 35-year-old son at home to deal with this. I mean, give me a break. Give me a break. Talk about adult responsibility. Your dad had to go away, 35-year-old kid, for a day or two to visit New York City to talk with an actress in his movie. I'm sorry. Number two, again, if your dad is a very famous and very wealthy movie producer, and you clearly have a want to be in the business, and you're not, that really says a lot about how little talent you got to have for your dad not to be able to put you in one. Just got to add that Mark Platt himself is a co-producer of one of those pro-Israel October 7th movies. And another point is that Variety reported that Gal Gadot actually had to be provided with a security team because of the threats apparently she faced. I got to tell you, I don't know. I'll believe it. I'll believe it. I'm sure she did face threats, but I didn't really see it, and I'm sure most people didn't see those threats. I will say I saw a shit ton of threats against Rachel. What's her last name again? Ziegler. I saw those all over the place from right wingers. I also saw threats against the young woman who played the Little Mermaid in the Little Mermaid live action movie. I saw threats against the two John Boyega of Star Wars and the other woman, the Asian woman who was in Star Wars. Tons of threats against them. Did Mark Platt or Disney and Company, did they provide security to those people who received threats as well, or was it just Gal Gadot? Also, with all that said, I don't think politics played any role in the failure of this movie,
Yes.
whether we're talking about Rachel Ziegler or Gal Gadot's politics. Most people don't, whether it's a pro or a minus, a plus or a negative, most people don't really think about politics when they go see a movie like this. What likely hurt this movie was all the controversy related to the creative decisions that went public, like them originally not having the Seven Dwarves, and all those various different things that likely led to the failure of the movie as well. And plus, the critics saying the movie's just not that great.
Yeah. I mean, people just don't necessarily have an interest in seeing this live action remake because the remakes have been so poor repeatedly.
Also, none of them have earned. So I don't know where this projection was coming from their internal team, because only 5 of the live action Disney remakes have made over $250 million. And basically only one of those 5 was a princess movie, and that was Beauty and the Beast. And that was driven by like Emma Watson being cast as like Belle in that.
Yes.
All the other ones were like The Lion King, Aladdin, The Alice in Wonderland with Johnny Depp at the height of Johnny Depp's like funny accent, funny hat career.
And these were like 10 years ago when this was novel, as opposed to now when no one cares anymore.
It's like in like 2015, the studios announced, oh yeah, there's going to be a new superhero movie for every like month and a half for the next 10 years. You're going to love every one of them. And it turns out like actually people get sick of this shit.
Yep. Ramona Frankenstein said, Emma, your Instagram post about this with Evan Hansen made me cry laughing so hard. I did send this, but whatever. We don't need to put it.
I missed it. I got to see it. That was enough people.
Look at this. I mean, this is the guy. Just go in the chat where I said this. This is the movie. This is his son, Ben Platt. Doing some real hardcore acting as a high school student. I think I tweeted this out. Multimillionaire Hollywood executives when they're
playing a high school student.
Sadness over little babies being blown to pieces. Yeah, he's supposed to be a high school student.
He's a high school student? He looks older than me.
It's just watch the trailer if you want, and you can just tell immediately that this movie had no chance to succeed and was really merely a nepotism vehicle for this idiot's son.
But this is indicative.
I gotta say.
Sam
Seder would play a more convincing high school student than that guy.
I like that. I like. Yeah, he looks like he's in high school. We all look like we're still in high school. Let's go with this. Let's go with this train of thought.
Yeah.
It's like that board member of who's like on the Axel Springer board, and he's like, this Politico thing is pro Hamas. This Politico report. I don't know if you saw that tweet out. But like this is why fundamentally we are where we are, where we're in like over a year into a genocide that's getting more and more acute, getting more and more exterminationist. Our institutions cannot call it that, is because it's all people like Jonah Platt, who literally goes in there thinking he's on the right side of the argument, saying, you really want to do this now? She should have shut up about any sort of thing about Palestine, and then you're blaming it on her. Yeah. That is nasty, nasty stuff. And you know, that's fundamentally, it's like, how do we expect to fight against this when Chuck Schumer's on the same timing when it comes to him thinking the United Nations is anti-Semitic? This is a hysteria right now, and it is getting people snatched up off the fucking streets.
I also have to correct myself, because the live action Little Mermaid remake, which wasn't on the list I just read, the last movie that they complained about actually earned like $540 million in the box office. So clearly, being woke is not the, the end all be all of making movies. People just probably didn't want to see this one. Like, who is Gal Gadot to be the evil queen in this movie even? Like, that just seems like such weird casting. Like, I remember the last time they casted Maleficent was the evil queen.
Angelina Jolie.
Angelina Jolie. Like, that's like, casting people would want to see in a movie. Like, no one is dying to see more Gal Gadot. Like, that's just the reality of it. Like, she's not a very good actress in anything. Like, they made a bad casting decision. So,
well, the executive producer is a Zionist, so of course.
But also, kids' movies don't run on the same schedule as other movies that go into movie theaters. Like, movies that are made for teens and adults, they have the ability to get their audience out to the movie theater opening weekend because their audience can make those decisions to go to the movie theater. With a children's movie, as we just saw with this latest Lion King movie, the live action Mufasa movie, which came out, was a bomb. And then a few weeks in, it's one of the highest grossing movies of the year with like $500 million. Kids' movies are based on when kids are available, when the parents are available to take the kids, and when the kids are on vacation, out of school, that type of stuff. So it's also possible that this Snow White movie will have a second life when, kids are able to get to the movie.
Yep.
Like, spring break is coming up soon. It seems like a weird time to like release it before. Like, they could have released it around Easter break, and like probably would have done better for the first opening weeks.
And it's only a political conversation because Zionists want to smear a young woman for saying free Palestine.
Yep.
That's the only reason this is politics right now.
We stand with Rachel
the witch
Zegler.
hunt.
Yep.
And if the movie did well, they would be saying, "Oh, it's because Gal Gadot." People love the blank face that she makes whenever she's acting.
There's a really funny clip someone filmed from the movie, like from the movie theater, and Gal Gadot like turns around and she lets out like a Scooby-Doo type noise. Like, it's like really funny. Have you seen it? Yeah, it's really funny.
What role? I haven't seen this.
Yeah.
Conservative Mind Virus says Gal Gadot was only good in Wonder Woman because they chose to portray her as basically a space alien who can't relate to the world. She's also just she looks the part. She's beautiful, but not on the inside. Which maybe fits for the evil queen role. Not Nick Fuentes says, "Hello, Emma. Thanks for taking my call. So much fun. I also tried to convince my family and friends to switch to Signal, but since the Mike Waltz debacle of adding Jeffrey Goldberg, I think they won't switch because Goldberg may see everything. LOL, left is best. That's funny." Ralph, on top of everything else wrong with the bombing and Signal chat, it speaks to the incredible arrogance of these people. They think that the people they're bombing are impotent. Yemen has been incredibly resilient and resourceful adversary to all their attackers, including the United States. These people are going to get an aircraft carrier sunk. Yep. You can say that on mic if you want.
No, never mind.
El Canipcion, you guys don't need to get involved with Ethan Hassan as it covered when he isn't busy with the news. Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing where it's like a real display of your priorities if that's what's going on.
I mean, it's part of a fascist attack on our freedoms. All those YouTubers trolling people about being sort of pro-terrorism they actually support Israeli terrorism and genocide, and that's why the Noah Samson video gets them, because it just puts that in the title. And actually, that's the great thing about Noah Samson's video is it doesn't waste too much time defending Hassan from these just bad-faced smears by Zionist propagandists, and moves right on to prosecuting the case against the people who are supporting genocide by smearing allies of Palestinians.
Center Spiral, I promise I will watch whatever Rachel Zegler is in going forward. Yeah, I mean, she's a beautiful singer. Like, they're calling her untalented. It's just look up how she sings. It's West Side. Steven Spielberg cast her after one audition, basically, I think, for West Side Story. It tells you all you need to know. All right, let's take one more call. Calling from a 952 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? 952? Going once.
Hello?
Hi.
Hello?
952?
Hi. Oh, my goodness. Yes, this is me.
Hi. Who's this? Where are you calling
Sorry.
from?
Yes, this is Al from Massachusetts.
Al from Massachusetts. What's on your mind?
First of all, I just wanted to say congratulations on your upcoming wedding.
Thank you.
Emma, I'm a huge fan.
Thank you.
Anyway, with everything going on in, especially Massachusetts right now, what advice, I know that with Noah, he had to like get involved community-wise. I know that there's stuff in Massachusetts. Sorry, it's, I'm a little nervous on the call. What other, I guess like in terms of community building, what suggestions do you have? I know like some people are saying like, go out and, get to know your neighbors. What other like local ground, like grassroots, like motivating things that we can be doing to protect our neighbors and loved ones during these raids?
Well, I mean, it's a big question. I think I'm always going to recommend tenant organizing, union organizing, DSA meetings. If you don't, if that, like, you've exhausted basically those options, I know that there are some resources available to people that are not, that I'm blanking on off the top of my head. It might have been specifically in Massachusetts. Hold on, let me see. The Myra Coalition, Massachusetts Immigrant and Refugee Advocacy Coalition. They may have resources on their website. They have like a Know Your Rights thing. But that might be a good way for you to kind of join some sort of local defense league. You can email them if you'd like. There are other groups, but it's hard for me to come up with them off the top of my
Indivisible.
my head.
But
Indivisible.
the thing is like it's Noah said, it's just basic network effect. The more places you plug yourself in, the more places you can get plugged in at because people will have reference to you. And so like just getting whatever is active in your community, I'm partial to DSA, I'm a paying member, but any group that is active and doing things that you can join in with makes it a lot easier than trying to start something from scratch.
H-Dub says you can do legal observer training. That's another good suggestion.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And then, for cases like what happened to the Tufts student, is there any way like for, civilians to maybe like, I don't know about like, like using like bodies to shield of just like, see something, start screaming, start saying something like, I'm unfortunately not as well versed in like what one can do to, physically protect. I mean, I know like, people have said like, hey, there's like hotlines you can call that like alert members of ICE activities, but is there any way like in the moment that citizens, can help these people?
I mean, one of these groups probably will have the better training with something like that. There's this thing where, like churches, for instance, ICE has been hesitant to go into churches to go get people like availing on institutions like that can be really important. It's tough because like when that was first talked about, it was in the context of like migrant farm workers and stuff like that, or part of the community. Now we're talking about like Fulbright scholars and you don't really think of them as like the usual folks doing that. But I mean, it is absolutely unacceptable. Nobody should accept it that that people in America can be snatched up off of a street and transported across the country for opposing the violent actions of another country. It's everyone knows that,
right? But I would say the resources that I listed can give you some tips. I don't really know how I can basically do it. Like I don't want to do it ad hoc here or whatever. So just check that out. But I had something else I wanted to say to you. Oh, I mean. They still have not detained that by my recollection that valedictorian student. Is that at Columbia who they're targeting? That they've been successful in hiding her is like what I know right now or what I've heard in terms of the updates. So perhaps there's some lessons to be learned from that.
Yuncio Chung.
Definitely.
Yep. Appreciate the call. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for all the work that you do. I mean, I've been listening since I think before the Palestinian genocide, but the work you guys do is incredible. So thank you to everyone. And Thursdays are always my favorite day of the show. So thank you for all the work that you do.
Thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it. And the kind words.
Yep.
All right, guys, that's the final call of the day, but we will still do some clips and read some IMs. H-Dub said it would be great to have an immigration lawyer on to go over what people can do to block ICE. It varies by state. That's a good idea. We could write that down. Well, we were trying to cover it a little bit today, but we had some issues. Grumpy northern neighbor, I am afraid we are perhaps missing the point of Musk's eagerness to siphon personal data. The value is probably less for building his payment system than to allow him to run ahead of his rival Thiel in creating better and scarier Palantir-type systems for the domestic surveillance and repression that will be required to maintain the kind of empire he aspires to.
Yeah, it's part of it is just, feed data into the data machines, and that's valuable to them. I think it's, I don't know.
I don't know if Thiel is his rival as much as Sam Altman. Thiel is, I think, more of a partner in this than that. But Altman, it's for the Grok is so far behind that's how I think he wants to get ahead, both for
playing dirty
AI, AI and payment system for X. Jessica Fefe, love y'all. While very important, 30 minutes on right-wing movie grievances is 20 minutes too long. I'd love to see a shorter setup and discussion than take several quick callers and IM comments on the subject. All right, appreciate the feedback. We try to get through things, but we're also 4 people here, so sometimes our segments are a little longer, and we all have opinions, so that's part of it. Northwest Carter says, hey, Binder, I saw the Lindas last night in Seattle, and they rocked. I would assume you're familiar with them.
I'll have to check them out. I'm not actually.
Buckets and buckets. Emma, why do you talk about the October 7th victims like that? I'm not sure what you were trying to do, but that ain't it. Like what?
Yeah, how did you talk about them?
Yeah. Be more specific, please.
I think one way to talk about them is objects of genocidal propaganda by the Israeli state. That's how they've been used by that government since they were killed.
Let's do another clip here. This was fun. The Comer thing. Yeah. So yesterday there were hearings on basically PBS and NPR funding that the Republicans in the House set up. Trump has said earlier this week that he would, quote, love to see federal funding cut for public broadcasting. It was established in the 60s. Both, I think, PBS and NPR get around $500 million in public money for public broadcasting. And, I saw there was a piece in the Free Press, Barry Weiss's outfit that she was promoting, just around a few weeks ago, backing up this idea that it's inherently corrupt, that there's public financing of media in this country. What right-wingers would prefer is the model that the so-called free press has, which is being funded by venture capitalists like Andreessen Horowitz.
Or Barry Weiss's partner's family, which is the richest family in California. It's nice when you have the connections like that.
They want billionaire-funded media as opposed to media that gets funding in a nonpartisan way from the government. And now, look, it does probably limit the scope of the critique in many ways, maybe of like Empire or the deep state that NPR or PBS is going to engage in, but they still do good work.
Yeah,
they still do.
The BBC is even a more clear example of like that's clearly a public broadcaster funded by compulsory license fee, and it has its huge issues on things like Israel, Palestine, for instance, but ultimately, it's good to have a public option for news.
Right, as opposed to it all being corporately owned. But the right-wing project is to privatize it all. And they want you to think that it's the public broadcasters that are corrupt, not the ones that are owned by, say, Jeff Bezos, who kills total swaths of their opinion pages because he disagrees with it.
Yeah, or insane Zionists like New York Times.
Or you don't see the same thing, honestly, with something like NPR or with PBS. So, but they also just don't even understand what they're talking about. Here's James Comer, who just can't stop being a big dumbass in his position here.
Gomer.
Yeah, like
Comer the Gomer.
He was the guy on the Hunter Biden beat with a laptop from hell, whatever the hell that meant. He doesn't seem to even understand what editorial standards mean. This is him at the hearing yesterday.
Do you want to dispute anything that I said in the remaining 30 seconds?
Thank you, Congressman. First of all, I want to recognize your concerns. One of the first things that I did in coming in May was to beef up our editorial standards. I directed my editor-in-chief, who, by the way,
Why is NPR even doing editorials?
I'm
should
so
NPR
sorry.
Even do editorials?
I don't mean editorial in terms of opinion editorial.
Do you even need opinion? What does it matter with the opinion? If you're a federally funded entity that's supposed to provide the news, can you not provide the news?
Of course,
fair and balanced?
Of course, Congressman. I mean editorial standards for our journalism was to beef up our editorial practices, bringing in more editors to make sure that we have more points of view reflected in every story. I've engaged in a number of actions trying to address
and my
some of
time's
these
expired.
concerns.
I've lost confidence in public radio. I don't think, Madam Chair, they should get a penny of federal funds.
Oh.
Oh, he lost confidence. He was a big NPR fan before all this.
Yeah. Oh, but I mean, and when he says radio there, it's betraying it. The reality is they want a Rush Limbaugh on every radio, right? Like the more private radio stations there are, the more right wing and reactionary they can be. And like, there's been few things that have been more pernicious in our society than the impact of right wing talk radio. That's what they want. He doesn't know what editorial standards means. He thought it means that they have opinion, that it's referring to opinion pages.
Editorials, as opposed to like what the standards that editors
hold their journalists
which is
to.
again like the things he said, like the viewpoints saying, hey, we're doing an article on, say, deporting people. We're going to get not just the ADL and Canary missions perspective on that. We're going to get some justice for justice in Palestine's view too on it.
Editorial standards means the journalist writes the piece or works on it with other reporters. Then they have an editor who like fact checks it, makes sure that it's concise.
Make sure they got comment from the subject.
Yes, make sure that like they are being careful with the information that they're presenting, and they're
Why
not,
do you even need to do that?
Like
just do the news.
Yeah, editorials.
Sorry to the Southern people that think I'm offending all Southern people when I make fun of Comer's voice. That's just how he talks.
It is unfortunate, but like in terms of other Southerners that we like to mock, is this more dumb or is it less dumb than Tommy Tuberville not knowing what the three branches of government are?
It's the same. That's the same thing.
Oh, but Brandon, we lost your audio.
Oh yeah, maybe refresh, Brandon.
Maybe refresh, but I wanted to hear what
I'm
you
gonna
had to
go
say.
with
Go ahead, Bender.
I'm gonna go with the Tommy Tuberville one simply because that's directly related to the knowledge he needs to do his job. Yeah.
But like this is directly related to the hearing that he's engaging in, and he doesn't seem to have any understanding of it. I want to find this quote from Tommy Tuberville on the three branches of government.
He didn't do the work for the specific project.
Right.
But Tommy Tuberville didn't do the work required for the entire job.
Yeah. I mean, here's the quote. I found it. Our government wasn't set up for one group to have all three branches of government. You know, the House, the Senate, and the executive. So, yeah. He
you there, Brandon?
Left out the
I'm here.
There you go.
Hey.
Well, I was just going to say he should get a lesson in editorial standards from Steven Crowder.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, obviously, Steven's the expert on like making judicious decisions about what information to put out there, what to include, what voices to amplify over other voices. All of our money should just be going to, local African sources of information.
Oh, right. I forgot about
what was that?
that.
I only think of Nude Africa because of Robinson.
No, but it was. I think of Nude Africa. It was something else. It was from the deposition. It was Africa Today, Africa Tonight.net, or something bizarre. But I like to say Nude Africa regardless, just because it's funny to think about that race.
I only read Nude Africa for the article. I only read Nude Africa for the editorials for the for the articles.
Editorials. editorials. Nude Africa's taking our taxpayer money and it's giving its opinions.
Why can't Real News Africa just give us the news?
Yeah. It says news in the title. All right. We're going to read some IMs and get out of here. Ryan in California, PBS and NPR create programming that is not profit-driven, educational and entertainment programs. The Discovery, TLC, History channels used to air PBS-type programming. Get rid of public funding, and Nova will become Ancient Aliens. Great Performance will become America's Got Talent. That is exactly right.
Yeah.
I mean, the History Channel should be ashamed that they air that Ancient Aliens crap. Like, that is what this would turn into.
Okay, Senator Chuck Grassley over here. You guys are aware of his famous tweets where he always complains about there's no history on the History Channel.
Oh, I am not aware of that, but yeah, I'm with him on this bipartisanship.
For like the past
shot at my stream.
Years, the past like 15 years, Chuck Grassley has posted a tweet like every other week about how, oh my God, I turned on the TV and they were showing history on the History Channel. I couldn't believe it.
Relatable, Chuck.
Well, sometimes they play like it's either Ancient Aliens or like a show called like Hitler's Super Weapons. Like those are the only two shows on the History Channel.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is like I think if I had I would fund NPR and PBS way more. I also think that they're not really enough. We need to do things like decommodify housing and healthcare. The sort of issues that affect journalism, which is that the number of journalists employed in this country is way less than it was like 50 years ago because the money has just dropped out of it because of how advertising works, and it's not coming back. And it was a sort of coincidence that it worked out for as long as it did. You're not going to be able to ever put the toothpaste back in the tube, and it needs to be the same solutions that we do for like miners that are out of work. It's going to need to be for journalism, and so it makes it easier to have a living where you have housing and shelter and healthcare and stuff like that. And so then you don't need to make so much money to be a journalist, frankly. Right. But because we're not going to be able to do this by funding PBS. That's not going to save the media, even though we should do it.
Reflections on film. I'm a U.S. citizen born in Germany to U.S. parents serving in the military. I've been an outspoken Trump critic. Is it reasonable to be afraid that this admin will question my legal status? Am I American enough? It is reasonable.
Were you on a college campus? It does look now like they are going specifically after campus activists.
Yeah.
Which is just another thing. Like we're supposedly undergoing an invasion, right? And all of the border people and FBI are looking at college students who write op-eds.
Yep.
So how sincere are we about believing we're being fucking invaded?
They know that they're lying. Smart Brie. Emma's dressed like The Rock. Oh God.
Oh my God, you are.
I'm putting it away. I thought it looked cooler on the outside.
Are you wearing a fanny pack right now? You got a fanny pack on right now over there, Emma?
No, not today. But do you have that picture? We should probably put it up. I am dressed exactly like The Rock, unfortunately. Next time I wear this sweater, I'm putting the chain underneath. Although I am almost like I feel like I'm close to Adidas tracksuit, which would be, also Michael's thing back in the day. Yeah, this is my outfit today. God damn it. Damn it.
Oh, boy. Emma's the new final boss.
Oh, gosh. All right. Bitter Bernie Bro, not Ancient Aliens catching a stray. I mean, I just feel like it's the Joe Roganification.
No, fuck that stuff. Catch the whole clip.
Yes, it's like sometimes stop.
It's anti-information.
It's anti-humanism too, because it's like all about they do these conspiracy theories, right? That like aliens are responsible for all of our human wonders. Where it's like, no, human beings did this stuff, and it makes it cooler that human beings made the pyramids. I don't know.
Maybe if you were only watching season 1 of Ancient Aliens, that's old hat. Like Ancient Aliens is like up to like 37, and now like Bigfoot is an alien too, but like an alien prisoner who has been like trapped on Earth for like crimes against space. It's the show has gone off the rails.
Yep.
I never heard that theory. Bigfoot is an alien trapped here for crimes in space.
Yes,
That's
one of the
I
episodes of
actually
Ancient Aliens.
that's actually the best theory I've heard. It makes complete
It's
sense when
exciting,
you
right?
think about why there's no other Bigfoots out there. There's
It's
no big
also
feet.
kind of Scientology-ish, because like, aren't we all, just bodily vessels for alien souls that were dropped here in a volcano? That's what I've been told.
Well, I thought well, that's like also a thing, but there's also like, and I don't know if this is also Scientology, but there's like a theory that like humans are the result of alien genetic engineering, that like aliens came to Earth and they needed humans to like be slaves for them, or they need like a slave population. So they like, messed around with monkeys so that humans could like mine gold from. It's like Stargate. Have you seen the movie Stargate? It's like that.
No.
That's another like human development alien conspiracy. You should see Stargate. It would make more sense.
Yeah.
That's the takeaway. That's the takeaway.
DSA Josh says, are there any of y'all watching the new season of The White Lotus? One of the male characters is supposedly an autogenophile, and there's a clip scene of that character describing it in very graphic detail. TERFs are celebrating it as a big win for their side. They're trying to make it go viral on Twitter. Do y'all think The White Lotus has a hidden anti-trans agenda? The first season had 2 characters based on the host of Red Scare.
Who's the? I've watched the new season of it.
Yeah.
I can't say. I don't know. I'm kind of out on it, to be honest. But
It's-
I haven't seen. I don't know that.
Yeah.
The autogynephile thing or whatever. I don't remember which character that would be in the show.
But TERFs are
One of the
really
brothers?
weird and read into a lot of things. So
Yeah.
I don't know who it would be. The season is, I'm a little over it. I think it just got better a little bit this last episode. But the first season was good and tight and made sense. And now it just feels a little like they're mining for some viral moments. But great actors in it. All right, 5 more and then we'll get out of here. Swing State, as a Southerner, mock away. You have my blessing.
Look, everyone can do the North Dakota Fargo accent. Okay, I don't take it personally. It's just like
Oh.
accents are fun. Oh gosh.
Oh, gosh.
geez.
God, golly gee.
Oh geez.
Gerald from New Orleans, William F. Buckley was allowed to be damn near openly fascist on PBS's firing line, so Barry Weiss's talking point are surprisingly uninformed. Yep, well,
It's almost like she's arguing not based on like for truth, but sort of out of a agenda.
yeah. Rob from Dedham to the Massachusetts caller, I will say I've met a group of like-minded folks in my town through running for town meeting. There's a local WhatsApp groups that you can join. Start local. Congressional baseball fan. No, I said shift the outfield left. Why aren't you using the agreed upon hand signals? Oh, wrong chat. Please disregard. Greg from Arkansas. Emma's dressed like Elizabeth Holmes, not The Rock. Well, I'm dressed like neither because this is a crew neck, but I mean, I do have the chain outside the sweater. It was an unfortunate decision by me today. Gold Rush John will tune in now to Thursdays to smell what the Vigeland's got cooking. And the final I am of the day, Old Chomsky. Mike White is the creator of White Lotus. He's pretty liberal, so I don't think he has an anti-trans agenda. His politics seem to be pretty good, so I would agree. Let me actually end it on a different item. Andrew Cuomo, what was old is new again. I am seeking your vote for mayor of New York City. Now, many will claim I am responsible for their parents' and grandparents' deaths during COVID. This is debatable. However, you have other loved ones, and I will kill again. Give me power to hunt homeless people on the streets, and I will let your loved ones live. I just want to watch the light fade from someone's eyes. My accusers are abusers. Thank you for writing in, Andrew. Appreciate you. All right, guys. Appreciate you all. Brandon, Binder, Matt, mysterious producer who will be identified soon.
Next year.
Thank you all. We will see
Well,
you.
some of us already identified him unofficially.
Binder actually slipped last Thursday.
Oh,
I
well,
accidentally dropped the name.
I mean, yeah. All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see if Sam gets to it tomorrow. See you guys tomorrow.